Amazing. Thank you.
Oh my.
Oh, actually, let me just stop.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, just can't see you.
Yeah, it says it's failing to start the video camera for some reason. Hold on. Start my video. Let's go. Come on. Failed to start the video camera.
I wonder if it's, is your video camera operative in another app, such as
It's
Skype
stay.
or something?
Hold on one second. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, that's why. All right. Let's see if this works. Start.
Okay, something's
Yeah, there you go.
Hey,
Gotcha.
right.
Oh, all right. Here we go.
Perfect.
How's everyone doing? Sorry about that.
No problem at all.
I promise I'm not a technophobe at all.
Or me. Don't worry about it.
All right.
Well, it's great to see you all.
Hey, Charlie.
How are you?
How Aisha? How is everyone?
Okay.
Charlie, Alpa, how are you? Salam alaikum, Aisha, how are you?
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. I'm very well, thank you. Good to have finally met you.
You too.
Mm.
We're living in an amazing time, aren't we, hey?
Absolutely. Bringing everybody together as much as we can through Q.
The one thing that's been very, very clear to me, I've traveled the world a tremendous amount. And there's not one single race on the planet that I don't like or one country I don't like. And you start to realize.
I hate Mexicans, but that's just me. That's terrible. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've been to Palestine and I've been to Israel and I love both lots of people there. Never found a bad one. Then you start to realize how political it all is. I grew up in England where we had the Catholics and the Protestants fighting each other in Ireland. You know, they had the same Bible. They prayed to the same God. They saw him from a different angle, so they had to kill each other. You just go, how stupid are you, really? Really, just because you have a different view. And I liken it many, many times to looking at the Mediterranean from my house and being a diver and seeing the same body of water from a different perspective. And that's all we are, whether we're Jewish, whether we're Muslim, whether we're Christian, whether we're black, whether we're white. I've started looking through everything. I don't look at that anymore. I just look at what's inside them. In fact, there's good people and bad people in every walk of life. And I just
That's all well and good. That's all well and good, Charlie, but what's this bullshit between you and Santa surfing? We all need to know these things. Where are you hiding the white rabbits? What's going on?
Look, apparently she fell out with me, but I haven't fallen out with anybody. The white rabbit was a bit of fun, where somebody had asked me a question and said, stick a rabbit up on there. Whether it was done from their wind-up or that didn't matter to me. And I sent a message to Santa Surfing and she didn't respond. So maybe she has fallen out with me, but look, I'm not in the slightest bit worried whether people fall out with me or not. You have to understand we're all on the side of good.
Absolutely.
Good is now getting momentum, and evil will try and divide us because that's the only way they'll stop us.
Yeah.
So I won't even get involved with it. I've had so many things thrown at me. I've heard, oh, Charlie Freak doesn't like me, but I call him and then suddenly he said, I haven't got a problem with it. People just throw stuff out there, and I just focus on the truth. And
yeah, I love how people try to start like an East Coast, West Coast rap war in the alternative media world, as if it's something. It's so ridiculous. Like you're Biggie and Tupac. We're all in this together. We're all trying to expose the truth, trying to bring people together and understand what is actually happening.
Yeah.
And I've been studying all of this for, I don't know, maybe 20 years or so, long before the 2016 election and Q. And Pizzagate for that matter. But what something like Pizzagate did was basically just come in and confirm all of my research and suspicions. So now we just really have to concentrate on exposing the truth for people, regardless of race or religion. Like you got two Muslims, an Indian and a Christian here in this chat. And, right now we're just here for the children, to save the children. What's going to unify the world is the plight of human and child trafficking.
But it's bringing the dark to light, and I think that there is still this cognitive dissonance, which we've been saying for months and months now. And there seems to be, I was saying to Charlie earlier on, there seems to be layers of people awakening, and we're at the precipice of this next layer of people awakening. And there's all these fad words being thrown around, awakening, woke, whatever. But yes, you're right, Sid. We're all in this together. We all need to hold hands and not have this animosity that's really evident at grassroots level, which is still happening. And I'm just being realistic. We're still a long way to go before, even though the elections are tomorrow, which is going to like just change people's minds. I mean, you know, it's not going to be such a fast, you know, process, I don't think.
I think with people are very hardwired. They're very hardwired to that negativity, to being very reactionary, to being triggered, to look for the divisiveness, to look for what angers them, to look for the differences. And it's going, and like you said, Alpa, it's going to take a long time to deprogram people.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is, like I said, 20 years of slowly going up this ladder of discovering the truth for me personally. But what's about to happen to the world is, you know, basically within a few months of the entire world being shot up that ladder with a rocket. And that's going to be tough for people. They won't be able to handle it.
No, you're absolutely right. I've always looked at it right from day one that I was given the four corner pieces in the puzzle. And it's very easy to say, you know, you've got the sky. I remember as a child doing a puzzle. The sky and the sea were always difficult to do because they were all the same bloody color. And it was the monotony of putting all the pieces in there. If it was a building in there or something else, it was easy because you could see the corners of the building and the windows and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all, every single person, the four of us here are just pieces of that puzzle. And we're finding other people as other pieces in that puzzle. And the theory that my piece of the puzzle is more truthful than your piece is complete and utter bollocks. Every piece of the puzzle is so important. And we just need to value each piece of the puzzle. And then when we value each piece of the puzzle, the picture becomes pure beauty at the end and clarity.
It's ego though. There's a lot of egos at play here at the moment. There's spiritual egos, there's intellectual egos, and you know, my truth, like you said, is truer than your truth. And what I think we all just need to really remember is that the information that we've been receiving about the children, we collectively need to be in this way of like unity consciousness, not like be like fighting amongst ourselves. So I think these are precarious times for sure.
I think they're interesting times. I think they're lovely times. I think, you know, when we get rid of the politicians out of our lives, and I mean get rid of the politicians out of our lives, we can actually enjoy each other's company without being judgmental. They've created all this judgmental stuff.
Right. And that's why the system's going to be changed.
Correct. And it needs it.
Mm-hmm.
And
no more Republican, Democrat nonsense.
I mean, I agree with you, Charlie. Thankfully, thank God, I tend to be quite optimistic and positive, and I know where to focus my energy anyway. And I see this as a phenomenal time that we're living through. And I tell my children this. I say, you know what, kids, you're going to look back and you're going to think, wow, we really did live through something very, very special. The whole world, the whole of humanity is being reset. It's not just, you know, people think it's just the financial side of things. It's not, it's everything. And when I try to explain this to my children, I say, kids, one day you'll understand how we were actually enslaved and on how many levels, especially my generation and your grandmother's generation. We were the generations that were enslaved mentally, with our food, financially, the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the system that we're, you know, educated in. Every part of it, we were enslaved. And I do think so. I think it's a very exciting time, personally.
Absolutely. And a lot of that began with the brainwashing through the mainstream media. I know in America, I don't know how it is abroad, the foreign media. I don't know if you guys can hear the construction next door. Sorry. I don't know if that's bleeding through.
Doesn't matter.
No. All right.
The truth will always come through, Sid. Don't worry about that.
All right. Thank you. But yeah, so for me as a Palestinian American Muslim, a lot of Palestinians here in America kind of knew the truth already because of the Zionist controlled media always sweeping the war crimes against the Israeli war crimes against the Palestinians under the rug So we kind of knew something was fishy to begin with. And then 9/11 happened. They were trying to say, it was a few extremists with box cutters who somehow brought down the towers into their own footprint, as opposed to, actually, I wrote something I would really like to, regarding 9/11, on one of my social media posts. I don't know if you're aware of this, but some of my social media posts have reached certain people, quote
people.
unquote.
Yeah,
Huh?
I'm hitting, when I share your posts, I hit like 200-300 likes.
No, I mean like certain influential people.
Oh,
Not
okay.
to brag. But yeah, I've got nothing but flattering responses from them, which I'm very grateful.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sid. So when did you actually move to America? Do you mind me asking?
No, I'm a first generation American, born and raised here in Cleveland, Ohio, specifically, where I still live. My parents immigrated in the 70s. I was born in 89. But yeah, so what I wanted to read about 9/11 was that I'm just going to read my post directly, verbatim. I put, war equals lots of money to be made for certain people involved: guns, tanks, aircraft, automobiles, etc., for a small group of wealthy and powerful people who benefit from production of all of those aspects, along with child and human trafficking business for them concerning the native children and people of that country. Then figure in whatever oil, relics, drugs, and gold they may find in whatever historic Middle Eastern country they're conquering. This attack was a huge opportunity, 9/11, I mean, was a huge opportunity in more ways than one for the deep state that they could not pass up. Or you can continue to believe the mainstream media narrative of a few extremists with box cutters acting out of random hate for Americans because you're free. Then the MSM, the mainstream media following that with doing the reverse psychology tactic of both convincing you of this lie and negative projection of Middle Eastern Muslims while telling you not to be a bigot, thus stoking the fires of your hatred for Muslims even more, concerning Americans and really a lot of people around the world who just buy the nonsense. And I felt that was important to
get
that message across.
And they still buy the nonsense. That's what I mean. While we are going out there speaking about all these truths, Aisha, and I think it's a great attitude to be positive, especially when you're brave enough to come out there in the Muslim community. Because one of the my business partner, he's Muslim, and I actually asked him to come today onto this Zoom chat, and he was reluctant because there's still the stigma and the resistance from them. And Aisha, I think you can shed a bit more light about that, because since you've been talking about all of this, there has been a great deal amount of resistance that you've been getting, and the apathy. So
I mean, haven't you both, Alpa and Aisha, have like horrendous exchanges and experiences through all of this?
Yeah, we have.
And you've posted that on social media.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I kind of made an example of it. I'm not really there to get into the petty nonsense of social media stuff, but when you have people saying that you're not Muslim for supporting Trump, I found that it's getting boring now.
Yeah.
Well, we have to understand the ban played a huge part in that. His public image of constantly supporting Israel plays a part in that, even though like people like us and you and I, Charlie, have the sources to back it up that what he's actually trying to do there and how this story will end. I've heard personally two-state solution with Jerusalem, I believe, as a shared capital. I don't know if you've heard the same thing, Charlie.
I've heard much the same thing, but I had the two colored gentlemen, who were explaining to me that Jerusalem as a city, the one that they're using now, is not the real one.
I've heard similar things. I don't know what to think anymore at this point.
That just amuses me, because I've actually been there. I've been to Jerusalem. I've been to Bethlehem. I've been to the Mount of Olives.
As have I several times.
I've been out there and I found it absolutely fascinating. I was on my second wife at the time, and I got offered 2 camels, and I should have taken them. That would have been a very good deal. 2
camels? Okay.
Yeah, I was offered 2 camels for it. That would have saved me a lot of money. But no, on a
as a Muslim, I can't respond to that because of certain images we have. Apparently.
No, I know. But I think when I was there, the one thing that shocked me the most was that most of what I saw there was built 300 years after Jesus died. And just to put that into perspective, that's 12 generations.
Yeah.
And I struggle to believe my granddad's stories, let alone my great granddad. So the hand-me-down stories of where it was and what it was, all this sort of stuff. And I said as a joke, if Jesus was born in Liverpool, it'd have been everywhere. Because they would have been poetic license. He'd been here, he'd been there, because that's the way they are. But we have to get a grip of the spirit of it as much as anything else, rather than saying, oh, this is mine and this is mine. It's like when you go through a divorce, you fight for stuff, and I know what I'm talking about, I've been through a few. You fight for stuff, and then when you've got it, you don't even want it. It was just a fight, and you wonder why you're even fighting for it. And it becomes, you suddenly lose sight of the bigger picture, and you just go, why? And I think this is how we'll look at it after this, that when we start to connect together, the piece of land who it belongs to will be irrelevant, because we'll be together. Right. And that will be a beautiful time when we can actually sit together on your land or my land, and it's our land.
And the ultimate
it'd be nice to have some land, though.
Sorry, the ultimate price will be peace, won't it?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Where does your family descend from, Aisha?
So I was born and brought up in London, where I've got about 20% Indian in me, but my family, they descended from Iranian and Yemeni businessmen who used to come to India for trade. So along the Arabian Sea, and then during the Civil War, they went and settled in India. So a little bit of a mix. And then so my kids are half Pakistani. So okay. Indians and Pakistani are not supposed to get married. So it's a mixing pot there.
As you can tell, I'm a light-skinned, green-eyed Arab. So there was probably some funny business happening in my background as well that I probably shouldn't get into.
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, so I wasn't aware that you are actually in America. So 9/11, it must have been very, very, obviously, it was difficult for everybody. But like when I look at you, Sid, I couldn't tell straight away that you're a Muslim man.
Story of my life.
I would stand out. You can tell that I'm a Muslim woman. I mean, sometimes I still get asked, are you Muslim, even though I'm wearing the headscarf? And I'm like, yeah. But, how was it like in that sense? You must have felt a lot of conflict still.
Half and half. Like you said, you can't really tell off the bat that I am. So whenever I would tell people, because I am proud of where I come from and who I am. So whenever I would tell people that, they'd be like, oh, really? I thought you were, Italian or the Greek or whatever, this, that, which I'm sure I probably do have some of that in my background anyway. But I did feel some conflict. I did get in some fights growing up, I guess. I played football in middle school. I remember I got in a fight with a kid during practice, who found out I was Muslim right after 9/11. So, I mean, it is what it is.
I think what I meant to ask, sorry, let me rephrase it, is like, so the aftermath of it. So I felt it, it was unfortunate. So you can tell I'm a Muslim, so I might be walking down the street and somebody might say, have something to say. But with you, obviously, you might not obviously get that kind of, I don't know, I don't want to call it racism, but it's the anger. You understand the anger. You understand,
absolutely.
But so if I would, being in East London, you have a lot of people who look obviously Muslim. So you've got the men with the long beards and who dress in a certain manner, and you've got the hijabis. So we would be at the receiving end of it. So I wanted to know, did you find that? Or, I mean, but you don't look very Arab. I don't think you do. Sorry.
No, it's all right. You're right, though.
This needs to wear one of the kurtas. That's what I was expecting.
Oh, should I? All right, next time. No, I mean, I felt some of it, like I said, not that much because, like, again, myself and some of the friends and relatives who are Arab Muslim like me, who I hung out with, are also like similar in pallor and physical characteristics. But yeah, I mean, thankfully it wasn't that bad because I grew up in like a Midwestern suburb. You know, some people were cool about it and understanding. Did you guys hear that? I'm sorry.
You're a dentist, are you?
Yeah, so much construction going on. It's so annoying. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry one little bit.
Sounded like an elephant. But yeah, no. I mean, really, that was the extent of it. I mean, I got into a few fights here and there, but nothing crazy. Thankfully, yeah, it's the suburbs. You know.
I often look back to September the 11th as from an outsider's point of view, and see how we overlooked. Right, there was 3,500 Americans killed, but after that there was 150,000 Muslims killed as a direct result of it. And we sometimes overlook that, and we just focus on what happened in America, and we forget about the devastating after effect of how many people lost their life as a direct result of that.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to remember that, you know, we've had this stupidity of Black Lives Matter.
Funded by George Soros.
Funded by George Soros, funded by a white man. They raised $1 billion, not a penny went to black people, and it all went to postal votes for Joe Biden. And you just go, when will you learn not to be slaves? And then go out and promote it. But every life matters, whether it's a Christian, a Muslim, Sunni, a Shia, whatever you are.
Well, I mean, but again, like mentioning someone like George Soros, he's obviously a huge part of the deep state. And when you look at, you can use whatever, you know, colorful name you want, Illuminati, deep state, Luciferians, whatever. At the end of the day, there is only 1%. They are referred to as the 1%, right? There's only 1% of them versus the 99% of us. So naturally, if they want to control all of us, the 99%, they're going to have to try to divide and conquer in some way. Yes.
Of course.
And who are the two biggest populations religion-wise in the world? Christians and Muslims. Yes.
Yeah.
So it would make sense for them to have us fighting against each other.
Sure.
In some way. I hope people can understand that logic.
Yeah.
People don't know, they have this negative image of Muslims, unfortunately. And I know you're married to one, Charlie. I've seen your show plenty of times. But they have this negative image of Muslims, like we want to, you know, bomb and eat you and all this nonsense. But, you know, Muslims invented a lot of, you know, we've contributed positively since the inception of Islam to society until today. I mean, we invented algebra, clocks, cameras, coffee. The first university in history was founded not only by a Muslim, but a Muslim woman. Fatima al-Hiri, I believe her name was, her last name was. But anyway, that's for the, you know, Islam oppresses women crowd who might be listening, who just don't understand because they go by the mainstream media narrative. Aisha, are you oppressed?
But I just want to mention something, if you don't mind. The thing is, with Islam, okay, it's a religion, but because it's so diverse culturally,
yes,
you also get a lot of cultural ignorances coming from a lot of different diverse groups. So it can actually mess things up. It becomes a big mixing point, like a pot, okay? So for example, if you look at the Indian Muslims, they're going to bring a lot of their cultural ignorances as well. I can tell you because I have family in India, and there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of things that maybe the Pakistani Muslims are not going to agree with. There's a lot of stuff that the Greek, French, or Italian Muslims aren't going to agree with. Right. And sometimes what can happen is that one particular group of Muslims, they might be doing something from their own cultural, I don't know, whatever, logic or upbringing, and it kind of messes it up for everybody else. And everybody gets tarnished with that. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
No, that perfect sense. I'm glad you brought that up because there is this just horrendous deconstructionalist sense of tribalism, not only in the Middle East, but with those countries that and cultures that you just mentioned regarding, all the different Muslims in the world, Indonesia, just all over the place. And it does need to stop. We need to unify, but not only as Muslims, we really need to unify everyone. I don't want to make this like a Muslim-centric show. I apologize, but I'm just
No, but I think it's important that we raise some of these issues, because on a day-to-day basis, and my favorite word, at grassroots level, it's great us being in our rooms and discussing these things and going our own merry way. But our interactions with people on a day-to-day basis, like I said earlier, we face resistance. So I find that within the Indian community as well, I've experienced it both with the Indian and Muslim, that the mere mention of Trump gets me kind of like sidelined. And this is stigma that is attached to that, you're suddenly racist. And Aisha, as you correctly said, it's the ignorance to this current global situation that we're in. I've had people message me saying, oh my God, I think Trump might win. I'm like, yes, I'm glad. But there are people who are panicked. People that I know are absolutely heartbroken because the way they've been programmed about him. And we keep referring to mainstream media. I had to even remind my father today. He's in a panic. Do you think, he's panicking. He goes, what if Biden wins? And I've been telling him since I've been on this journey, I know he's going, but what if Biden wins? And I'm like, that is fine, because he can't help watching the mainstream media, the news. And we can be idealists right now and think, yeah, great, with all these 10 days of darkness that we're anticipating. But on a day-to-day basis, there is this real resistance towards what's going on where Trump is concerned. And Sid, in terms of where you are at, coming from Palestine, how have you found it with your alignment and support for Trump?
On a personal level, friends and family already knew. Like I said, I've been looking at these topics for like 20 years or so they kind of already knew I was leaning towards the way of like QAnon in any way, and trying to inform them as best as possibly through logic, through the posts, the QAnon posts. And I keep trying to assure them, listen, I can't tell you certain things right now, but I have sources, as you do, Charlie, who tell me this is going to happen. This, like the Palestinian situation, for example, I tell them we're going to get the two-state solution. We're going to officially raise our own flag again. Okay, I promise. Even Kushner, whether it was actually him or a clone, said a few weeks ago that that's what they're trying to resurrect. In like he had like some phone interview with a publication. I forget which one. But it was like a month or so ago, that they're trying to actually resurrect the two-state solution. He used those words. So I keep trying to enlighten certain people. They don't want to hear it. They want to go with whatever the television tells them. So, it is what it is.
I think the way I see things moving forward, because we're heading into a beautiful future, a great awakening, and it's been a filthy, dirty journey. Once we start moving away from maritime law into constitutional common law, then all of our governments all around the world will not be necessary. They'll be out of a job. Mm-hmm. The most important thing for us as people is to not look back into the swamp to find somebody to lead us. We need to look in another pond.
Yes.
We've got so many people around the world who are retired businessmen or women or just good people that are very, very capable, as long as we don't slip back into trying to choose politicians to rule us, because they've completely destroyed the world that we should be living in. They're all part of the problem. There's very, very, very few of them that have not been contaminated. And in England, there's probably only one, which is Nigel Farage.
I love him.
Who hasn't been contaminated. Sorry?
I don't know much about him, to be honest. I know Boris Johnson's a tool, though.
Oh, yeah, he is. I mean, he's got the backbone of a jellyfish.
I think with Nigel Farage, again, I've had a bit of a crash course in what Nigel Farage is about. And it was also, I mean, when I think of Nigel Farage, I think, okay, he's somebody, this is the way he was portrayed. Someone who was very pro-Brexit, and it was all about, you know, making sure that the borders were protected. You understand it now. I understand it now. I understand what Brexit is now. And there was a lot of confusion about Brexit. But really, the way my friend explained it to me, and she explained it very, very simply, she said, Brexit went against the New World Order.
Correct.
And the fact that they even voted that in was phenomenal. She said, I'm still in shock to this day that they even allowed it to be voted about, because what in effect they were doing was, you know, going against the New World Order, starting to protect the borders, starting to distance Britain away from all of the other European countries. And when you kind of break it down as to what Nigel Farage was doing, you kind of go, well, actually, he was probably one of the good guys. I mean, you know, I don't know too much about him, Charlie, but I did see that, you know, Trump called him up on one of the rally stages, and that was quite phenomenal.
I think one very important point that you've made there, whether it's Trump or whether it's Nigel Farage, it's become identity politics. We need to forget who they are and realize what they're doing or what they have done. And the one thing you're absolutely bang on right with Brexit, it was against New World Order, but it makes you realize who's actually in control, and that's God. Whether you're a Muslim or a Christian, it's the same God. Makes no difference. And he's totally in control of what's happening. And this battle is not between Trump and Biden. It's between good and evil.
It's between Trump and a clone.
Exactly.
We all know whatever the hell that thing is, it was grown in a lab 3 days ago, and it's going to melt in like a week.
Exactly. But the real one had a little holiday down in Gitmo, so I don't think he's come back from there.
I think what, Alpa, you were trying to say earlier, and you said it very beautifully, the problem is with our communities is that when you come from a certain culture or a certain religion, and you start to, you know, speak pro-Trump or pro whatever is not against, you know, against this narrative or whatever, you're automatically seen as somebody who's racist. And the amount of times I've been called racist in just these couple of months is phenomenal. I've never experienced anything like that before. And it's very sad, because even when you try to break it down and you try to explain it, like, look, just hear me out. This is happening, or this might be happening, but look at the proof. Can you not see that this is kind of out of what you would have expected to happen? It's like their view is completely blinkered. They can't see past it. And it's very challenging, isn't it, Alpa?
100%, but I think you develop a thick skin, and when you go into the cause, I guess it's more about the cause. And I said to you, Charlie, in our first chat back in August, that I was absolutely horrified when I learned so much about what was happening with the children. And you then become like purposeful, and all this resistance that I've had from the Asian community, I actually don't care. Does that mean I'm being disrespectful? No, I'm aligning with good. I'm not aligning with the nonsense that we've been fed, you know, and I choose truth over lies. And I've done enough research to then form my own opinion and judgment. And these people's judgments and opinions don't really matter to me, because we're moving, like you said, Charlie, into some beautiful times. And I want to go with that vision. Unfortunately, though, we have to interact on a day-to-day basis. And one of the things I can say to you, Aisha, it is to develop a thick skin and carry on with determination by doing your part, because this is like, which side of history do you want to be on? You know,
yeah, but also, sorry to cut you, but also you feel this sense of wanting to bring people into that place of hope, wanting to kind of give them that hope, because everybody, I don't know, Sid, if you'd agree with me, but especially with our Muslim community, it's all about, okay, well, you know, we know from our scriptures that the world's going to end, and it's going to end in this way, and this is going to happen, the Antichrist is going to come, and you can't seem to get out. I mean, we know certain things, but you can't seem.
By the way, sorry to cut you off, but Christianity and Islam have a very similar end times prophecy. I mean, like nearly identical. We just, you know, we don't see Jesus as God or the Son of God, but we do consider him a very important prophet of God, and pretty much the Messiah, who's, you know, he's going to come back, you know, kick some ass, save the world, rule the world, that type of thing. exactly the same way. Um, I can't impress upon people how similar Islam and
It's
Christianity
the
are.
same. It's the same with the Quran and the Bible.
Yeah.
They're virtually identical, but a different interpretation. And yet they've been made out to be so divisive. And it's just a different perspective. And this is the point I try and make about the sea. My view of the sea from here is different to a diver's, but
Right.
it's the same body of water. And it's the same with the Quran, the same with the Bible. It's a different perspective,
Charlie,
same body of water.
sorry to cut you off, but going on that, I have to ask you, what book is this verse from? God said, "The land is inherited by my righteous servants." What book is that from? What holy book?
The Quran.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what verse is this from? Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
The Bible.
Book of Matthew specifically, yes?
Yeah.
If memory serves me correctly.
Yeah.
That's how similar.
That's exactly right.
That's where all this Middle East peace is coming from. They see the end the same way. That's why we're finally working together now.
Yeah.
That's why there will be peace in the Middle East,
Well,
Palestine.
if you consider, I'm going to tell you something a little bit funny now. When you try and interpret something, it can be misconstrued.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the difference between Hebrew language, the Greek language, the English language.
Mhm.
I was sat in my office the other day, and my wife's mother, who's Turkish, sent me a message in Turkish to tell me my grapefruit juice was ready. It came down as my fruit juice is horny. So when you think about that, and you think about interpretation, and that was Google Translate. My fruit juice is horny, not ready, horny. And that this is what I say to people about interpreting things.
Right.
It's very easy, and that was by, that's how it came through. My wife was in fits of laughter. And it's one very simple thing. If you live in England and you see a blue car, you'll say it's a blue car or a green car. If you live in Spain, you'll say it's a car green or a car blue. It's the reverse way round. And this is where the difference between the Quran and the Bible in language is probably exactly the same story, but told by different people in different languages.
Right. Pretty much.
You know, the question that I get asked a lot is, does Trump hate Muslims? I get asked this a lot.
I can assure you he does not.
No,
I mean, I believe.
And Charlie, he's a silly goose, is he not, Charlie? A bit of a silly goose.
Yeah.
I can't elaborate, but you're gonna have to trust me.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yes. We know a lot. You and I both know more than we can say on that one. But
Yes.
the one thing that was a very, very critical thing for me when I was in the Middle East, when he made his ban on Muslims in general, that was done for a specific reason. I won't go into too many details, but done for a specific reason. And Khalaf al-Abtar in Dubai became very public about his feelings about what Donald Trump had said. And he went public in the newspaper and basically gave him a spank on the bottom. And in 48 hours, Khalaf had done 180% U-turn and was back in love with him again. Just a quick phone call. And Trump had obviously explained to him why he'd done it. I now know exactly why he'd done it. And it was a strategic move so that the deep state could not say you're siding with the Muslims. So it was all part of the strategy.
I have it from a good source that he is a 5-level chess player.
Yes, he is.
I've heard that.
Which means I had to look that up. Even though I like to think I'm a pretty good chess player, I still had to look that up. That means he could legitimately play 5 games at once. That's how intelligent this man is. And that's how intelligent John Kennedy Jr. is, since we're on the subject.
Yeah, exactly. Very good friends.
Oh, aren't they?
Yeah.
By the way, I urge people to look up what kind of tattoo John Kennedy Jr. has on his arm. I don't know if you're aware of this, Charlie.
You posted that the other day, didn't you, Sid? I saw it on your page.
It's a Z with a dagger going through it. What does that Z stand for?
Zion?
Zionism, absolutely.
Zionism. Yeah, yeah.
So they know what the problem is. Both he and President Trump know.
Of course they do.
Okay.
Of course they do.
They just have to go out of their way to
Sure.
kiss Israeli ass, Zionist ass, because of the mainstream media bias. They don't want to be painted as anti-Semites, and of course, you know, there are a lot of Americans, evangelicals and Christians, who are brainwashed into thinking, you know, they just need to support Israel for some reason. I have no idea why, but it is what it is. I don't know. I guess it's religious.
There's a lot of things going on at the moment in the Middle East that are incredibly constructive, whereas previously it's all been destructive. And the one thing that, when you talk about him being a chess player, when he started with the UAE as the first peace agreement, and now we've just had Sudan, that was huge.
That's
Nothing really in mainstream media about any of this.
No.
And I said right from the start, the last three will be Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, and Palestine, in that order. And it'll be done for a reason. It'll be putting the pieces of puzzle together so that it comes together properly. And there's ways to do things. And I've learned so much working in the Middle East about creating win-win situations and not offending people. You kick one, they all limp. You know, it's that.
Right.
You have to treat them with care, or as I used to say, with an iron fist and a velvet glove. Be firm, but be fair.
Well, certain things needed to happen in Saudi Arabia for any of this. I mean, El Walid was just ridiculous, and the human trafficking, it was just so rampant there that people aren't aware of. So I don't want to just make this about like Israel or anything. It's a worldwide thing.
It is.
Saudi Arabia was the biggest producers of the adrenochrome.
Were they really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I knew they were up there. Yeah.
Saudi Arabia they were the biggest producers of adrenochrome. Al Waleed was bad. He was really bad. I mean, the whole education of Obama, but I don't know if people know this, but Al Waleed was behind Obama's education, seeing him through.
Yeah.
And he was quite, people don't know this, but he was heavily sodomized by the Saudis as well.
Oh, yeah. I just, since you mentioned that, sorry to cut you off, since you mentioned that, before I forget, I need to stress that the people who get hung up on Obama maybe technically being born into a Muslim family, he is not a Muslim. I promise you that. He worships a different entity altogether, much like the Clintons, the Bushes. He's a Luciferian. The Clintons, Bushes are not Christians. They're Luciferians. The Rothschilds aren't Jews. They're Luciferians. People need to really understand this so we can just, enough of the divisive nonsense and unite.
That's a very, very valid point that needs to be got out there so people understand where the problem lies.
Good over evil.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's simple, dark and light, you know, the two dualities. And once we recognize it and bring it to that realization, we can move forward. But we're still fighting.
My biggest shock was to find out that the Vatican was satanic. That was my biggest personal shock.
Wow.
That it wasn't a Christian venue at all. It was a satanic venue.
I had a feeling because of what was happening in America with the Catholic churches. That's, I mean, this may be systemic. It can't just be like an isolated incident.
Sure.
I don't know. I just never understood why priests could not have marriages, you know, with women and all this. I think that was like a man-made thing that got misinterpreted along the years. But I don't know. That's just my opinion.
I was in a Catholic school actually up until the age of 10. I went through to Montessori and then to junior school. And I say it's very, now when I look back, very, very strict and rigid on like the religious side. I remember they took us to the Vatican for my first school trip at the age of 6, and I think I got way. Luckily, you know, there was some dodgy stuff that was going on around that time in the early 80s. So, and if you see pictures of the Vatican now, I don't know if you've seen it, it looks very eerie.
Oh yeah.
Very eerie energy about it when I went. And as a 6-year-old, I felt it.
Right. Charlie, how much gold and historic archives were they hiding, the Vatican?
Well, there
They
was
had to be
650 plane loads.
Lord. Good Lord. That's a spit take. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, they were all taken out, and they had even after that they had to go back because there was 7 vital documents that were missing that should have been there.
Mhm.
Because there's the documentation is as valuable as the cash and the gold there, because it will actually give a clear roadmap of what has happened and what they've been hiding.
Charlie,
But,
can I please ask you?
yeah.
I noticed what Charlie Freak said in regards to some of the newspapers in the UK and how they have capitulated over to Donald Trump. But I'm looking at a lot of newspapers still, and they're all, I don't think they have. When do you see a lot of this to start coming out in the media, in the mainstream media? Do you think it ever will?
I think 20% of what's truth will come out. I honestly don't think the world is ready for it. No. I think the stuff that we've just discussed just now, we're aware of, and we all 4 of us find it deeply repulsive, and we're aware of it. For people who are unaware of it, to have that would create absolute pandemonium. I mean, it would cause chaos. We've been broken into it gently. Yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, it was announced that the Queen is going to abdicate in England.
In the Express.
In the Daily Express. It'll leak out, and then suddenly she'll disappear. But she died earlier this year, apparently. But that will just come out as she died and he's died, and you know they'll disappear gracefully, because the deal right from the start was very, very clear that if they cooperated with Trump, they'd be allowed to leave a legacy.
Mhm.
And if they didn't, they would be dealt with publicly.
Okay.
And from what I understand of everybody that had the sealed indictments of the case that had already happened against them in Guantanamo Bay, they had the right to a 3-day trial to appeal, but nobody did. So that tells you an awful lot. There must have been a mountain. Well, there was a mountain of evidence, and I published myself a mountain of evidence on my own website with what happened just on one case in South Africa where they'd stolen trillions of dollars. And when I offered it to the White House, they told me they had more than enough to sink them. They didn't need it. They told me to publish it on my own website.
Right. Oh, I have Zimbabwe currency.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Whenever it's going to happen, whenever the RV is going to happen. And but I'm looking forward to the humanitarian projects. That's something I've always wanted to get involved in personally. I don't know if it's still going to happen as rumored. Actually, I know Santa Surfing has mentioned otherwise, but you know, I'm looking at a whole different assortment of sources. You and Charlie Freak especially.
Mm-hmm. I'm working with Michael Tellinger at the moment on One Small Town, which would be an amazing thing, because that's providing free electricity and clean water to 10,000 homes at a time.
Beautiful.
That would be.
Sorry, Alpa. And very quickly, Charlie, if you don't mind, this is a question that was posed to me a couple of times. How about Imran Khan from Pakistan, especially with his previous links with the goldsmiths? Is he on side? How does he play in all of this? Do you know?
I honestly don't know, but I thought about him only the other day. And there's 2 people that I thought about was him and Rupert Murdoch, who seem to have gone very, very quiet.
Right.
They're sort of conspicuous by their absence.
Okay. I mean, you say that, but then he recently, I think he wrote a letter to the CEO of Facebook. Don't know if he got it, but you know, he wrote a letter in regards to everything that's been going on in France. Apart from that, he pops his head up now and again. I think he congratulated Jacinda on her win. I was really annoyed at that, to be honest, but everybody was happy. Everyone was celebrating, thinking, oh, that's such a lovely gesture. So yeah, no, it did make me wonder, where does he play in all this? Yeah.
That's well, I think 99% of the politicians around the world are part of the deep state. That's why I said earlier, when we get through this into the Great Awakening, when we change over from maritime law into constitutional law, we won't need a parliament. But I think we now know who we don't want controlling our lives, because the people that have worked in parliament and in government are nothing like what we really want to lead us forward. They've been part of the biggest problem we've ever had. And we've got so many good people in America, in Palestine, in Pakistan, in India, in the United Kingdom, all over the world. We've got some great people who've avoided politics because it was a dirty swamp. Now the swamp is over. We start over again, and we've got some amazing people, men, women, of all different races, who are more than capable of leading us forward.
Mm-hmm. Let's get into some of the juicy stuff. I don't know how much time you have left, but how much do you think time travel and Project Looking Glass play into everything that's been happening, Charlie? Look, come on, you know some things. Come on.
I think it plays a big part. I think it plays a big part.
Yeah.
It was something I knew nothing about until I started this journey.
I know a little bit.
Yeah, but it's that for me is absolutely fascinating.
It's mind-blowing.
We're part of a multiverse.
Yeah.
Multiple versions of each of us.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the biggest things, the biggest scams that's happening right now. Is when they would stick that thing up your nose to do a test on you, they're taking your DNA.
Right.
So they can technically create a clone immediately from an identical version of you, with the stuff they take from inside your nose.
Right.
And that raises concern.
Thankfully, I've avoided that test. I don't know about you guys, but
sorry.
Thankfully, I've avoided that test. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it anyway.
Right.
I've been asked a few times if they could take my temperature or if I've washed my hands. I don't really want
Even taking your temperature as well.
I wouldn't let them take my temperature. I know if I'm ill or not. I don't need them to tell me.
No, because everywhere you go, they're taking your temperature now, like in restaurants and anywhere you go, wherever you go.
The only time that I'll let them take my temperature, because they did it long before this, is when I fly into Africa and you arrive at the airport. It's standard procedure. The airport. Then every single time I've gone in there, and they said, "Oh, you need to have this injection." I've gone, "How much do I have to give you for the certificate without the injection?" It's always $100, so I pay the $100 because I'm not going to go into the bush. I'm going to be staying in a 5-star hotel. I'm not going to be exposed to risk. So it's a protocol, and that's one thing I do love about Africa, that money talks and bullshit walks.
Yeah.
Like India though, isn't it, Alpa?
Yeah.
We used to travel over there. Same thing, the customs, you'd go there, they'd want you to open all of your suitcases just for fun. And then they just want you to lie in their pockets.
That level of corruption though, that's yeah.
No, it's that there's a lot of things that when you were talking about timelines and time travel and stuff like this, that was the first thing when I started looking into the med beds, that the first thing that they started talking to me about was because they were explaining to me about how if a soldier's lost his leg, they can put him into a med bed within 20 minutes, half an hour, they can have an identical leg from his left leg replaced on his right leg. And I was like, really? How do you do that? And he said, and they were like, it's from technology from outside of this planet. And I was like, okay, explain that one to me then. And they were like, you need a bit more than 5 minutes.
You think Nikola Tesla had a med bed?
That would not surprise me one little bit. because
My
that's,
sources might have said probably, but you never know.
you never ever know.
John F. Kennedy Jr.'s death might not have been the only one faked. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a crazy world.
It is. It is.
We're in for some exciting times, man.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I
I'm
want to
so
get to those parts.
It's going to be
Yeah.
fun. It really is going to be like
Do you
this
think,
amazing movie.
Do you think a lot more people who've gone underground might come overground?
Elvis,
Best is yet to come.
right?
I hope so.
Yeah, I think, look,
I definitely think
whatever you want to call it, whether you call it the Great Awakening, or whether you call it revelation, or whether you call it atonement.
Yes, exactly. Science and religion are interconnected. People need to understand this.
Yeah.
100% science and spirituality, definitely.
Yeah.
It's just, it's our language of the day is scientific.
Yeah.
Whereas in the times of old, it was different. It was, more mythic and religious, and
Yeah.
We're coming into a better time.
Do you think a lot of history that's been mistaught to us, a lot of the lies, do you think they will come out? Do you think history will have a chance to
at
put
least
that
some
right?
of it. At least some of it. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I'm again, like what Charlie said earlier, the public wouldn't be able to handle 100% of it. The shock would literally, like, people would have heart attacks. Like, it's that bad.
Yeah.
But I think slowly.
A critical part will be the quantum educational system.
Yeah.
I don't know. I figured it'd be a different education system altogether, but can you elaborate?
The idea of a quantum educational system will be so that the standard is the same worldwide. So that the truth is the same worldwide. At the moment, it's been completely distorted by the universities, by the schools, by everything.
Rothschild controlled educational process, basically, from what I've heard.
Yeah, exactly right. No, you're right.
Have you heard of the Tartarian Empire?
Yeah.
The Great Tartarian Empire. Yeah. I believe late 1800s, early 1900s, there was this unbelievably advanced civilization that existed in what I believe is now Russia and Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Where they actually had much more advanced technology than we have today. And some of the buildings and structures are still up there in Russia, are still up, and the huge doorways, giants, literally giant human beings, Nephilim or whatever you want to call them, in suits walking around. There's photographs of this that JFK Jr. and Q might have leaked a few years back to the public. I posted this on Facebook, so people can look it up, or you can just type in Tartarian Empire in YouTube or Google, and stuff will pop up. But yeah, there's a whole lot of history that we're about to come into, true history, facts that was hidden from us. And basically, families like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Bushes, and they basically owned the world and controlled it their way, hiding certain things from us.
There was a very interesting comment the other day that somebody made that I was talking to behind the scenes, and I said, if you think the Clintons were bad, you have seen nothing yet with the Bidens. They reckon they're 10 times worse than the Clintons ever were, and the Clintons were evil.
Horrific stuff that's come out about the Bidens. I've done a show with Bishop Larry Gators a couple of weeks ago. The bombs he was dropping on that one. The Bidens are horrific. I put that up today. It's especially
he murdered his first wife, Joe Biden.
Yep. Right.
I think he sacrificed one of his children too.
Yeah, that's correct.
Should I say allegedly, or I mean, these people are already in Gitmo.
Well, you don't need to worry, Sid, because I've got my own platform now, so I'm the one that censors it.
Oh, okay.
This is going to go on my YouTube. Please go on Charlie's channel, so he won't get.
I was going to say, they keep taking you down, man.
That's why I have my own channel now. We have a platform specifically for that reason.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting that I tried to appeal, and I was told that I was not allowed to appeal. And then when I actually wrote to Facebook and to YouTube, my emails bounced back as I didn't have the authority to write to them.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable.
So I just sent it off to Donald Trump and let him deal with it.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Anyway, it's been absolutely wonderful talking. Well, Aisha's first time I've spoken to you, Aisha. An absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah.
And
Thank you.
Sid, great to see you too. First time I've spoken to you.
Yeah, we have to do this again. This was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Because normally after 2 or 3 times, like Alpa, you come round to my house. So she's been around for dinner. So that way you can get to know each other better.
Right.
But no, it's great to see you, and thank you very, very much for your time today. It's been very, very constructive, and I think it's very, 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 very important that we can get the point across to people of that we're all the same on the inside.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
We need to learn to stand together and work together.
100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Take care.
I've stopped the recording there, but that's all very good, guys.